This is the Gutsy Health Podcast with Juanique and Tristin. Welcome back to the Gutsy Health Podcast.
Hi, everybody.
Tristin's back, by the way. Welcome back.
I'm still alive.
He's still alive. He hasn't been on the podcast for a while.
I don't know what's going on. I keep disappearing, but that's just how it's been.
But you guys, we have another really incredible guest. It's Dr. Eric Z, and I am pretty sure a lot of you guys have heard of him. So Dr. Z, thank you so much for coming on our podcast. We are super stoked to have you.
This is really exciting for us. And I'm sorry, we'll let you talk in a second. But when we first started getting into essential oils, Juanique and I personally, her mom had been doing it for a long time, but we were just brand new to it. We knew nothing. And so we got online and we just started researching everything we could. And we came across this guy, Dr. Eric Z, and
he was a genius. All of these things he was putting out were like, holy cow.
Yeah, we just absolutely loved it because it was accessible. Mm-hmm. It was not trying to push us towards a specific essential oil brand
or a downline or anything like that.
And it was just so full of helpful information. Mm-hmm. And so when we were approached not too long ago with the opportunity to have him on the show, we were so excited to say yes. And now here he is, everyone. I hope you are as excited as we are. This is Dr. Eric Zielinski. Am I saying that right? Zielinski?
Yes. And that, you know what? That's the funny story about why I asked people, I just say, just call me Dr. Z. I mean, just so many people have looked at, and ever since I've been a kid, and my poor wife, she went from Frawley to Zielinski, and it was just a learning curve for her and for others. So I was like, just call me Dr. Z, call her Mama Z. And people think like, oh, who are you? Well, like, okay, try my name and see what happens. But thank you so much. I mean, it's just a wonderful opportunity to talk. You know, we're celebrating the birth of our 5th baby.
Oh, congratulations.
Right now, and so I have some wonderful daddy, bags in my eyes with the baby this morning. It's just a great time to be alive. And, it's a great time to have the tools that we have available, regardless of what's happening around us. And, and I, the thing that I keep on going back to, and I love communicating with our online community via social media and via our newsletter and things. And I'm like, this weekend's newsletter is all about the craziness of what's happening right now. And I'm like, it might seem like there's not a lot of control that you have, but you really do. And at the very end of the day, having something like your own little special mood boosting blend inhaler, or putting on a special something that chills you out in the diffuser or whatever it is, having that ability is so priceless, because people are walking, especially in the wake of the US election, right? Yeah. People feel like everything's out of my control.
Right.
Everything is out of my control. And 2020 is the year where everyone they felt they lost control. But 2020 was the year where my family and I really just hunkered down and continued doing the things that we've been doing. And I just, only by the grace of God have we gone through this year relatively unscathed. And we've been inconvenienced and we've been affected, and we can talk if you want to, however we want to talk about 2020. But imagine you do have those little tools in your tool belt.
Yeah.
And that's the power, the healing power of essential oils, whether it heals your mind, your body, your soul, your spirit. Yes. You have something.
Yeah.
And so anyway, I don't want to go on philosophical, but I just want to encourage people, because a lot of people just feel victimized, and especially by their circumstances right now. But you know what? All I need is a little bottle, a little sprayer, and at least I could give myself a few moments of respite.
Exactly. I love that. I want to add to that, because the other night I just wasn't feeling good, and all I needed was tea tree. And I looked all over the house for my tea tree, and I couldn't find it. And it was the middle of the night, and I'm like, I cannot go to the store and get tea tree, and I need tea tree right now. And so I felt so powerless without my little medicine cabinet with my tea tree. And so, yes, being able to reach for an essential oil to help us in these times of need, when a child is coughing, when there's an open wound or a cut or something, it can feel very empowering to have these really simple tools at the reach of a hand or an arm or something like that. So anyways, thank you.
Well, what happened at the beginning of the pandemic? People stormed the stores to get what?
Toilet paper.
I know.
Stuff, the necessities,
and
right?
Junk food.
And a lot of over-the-counter medicines, and a lot of I got to stock up on 5 months worth of baby aspirin, and the things that it was a sociology master's thesis,
Yeah.
just going to the store and seeing, wow. I mean, look at this shelf completely empty. Like I never would have thought they would have picked that. I mean, there are some really interesting products that people just picked up.
Yeah.
And so the thing was, the reality was we had no need for anything. And that's the cool thing is if you start preparing now and you start building your medicine cabinet, you start preparing your pantries, you start preparing your gardens and all the little things, your body care, even though everyone was storming the shelves to get hand sanitizer and soap,
Right.
we had the basic ingredients like Castile soap, and we had the things that we needed to make our own. And if we needed to, and we did. And that was pretty empowering when you think of it, because when they're literally sold out of the things that you want to use, even dish soap, I mean, laundry soap, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
So even the little things having at your disposal, it kind of brings us back to what was life like 200 years ago when you were self-sustaining, had to grow your own food, make everything, barter. And it gave people a little bit of just like a little titch of like, hey, this is what life was like, and you can do it.
Yes.
And even though you can't do everything, well, together, I believe we can, right? Even though you can't do it alone. Right. And that's the thing a lot of folks are afraid of. Maybe you're really good at DIY stuff, or maybe someone else is really good at food. Well, we'll trade. I mean, that's what people used to do, right?
Exactly.
Why not? I mean, whatever happened to that?
I love so much that you said that because, and people must think that we plan this out, but almost every single episode, we come back to this same concept, which is if we can get back to what our ancestors did, we can solve almost all of the problems of modern society because it worked so well until we started messing with it and interfering with it and becoming dependent on a system that is not sustainable. And what you're talking about is getting back to that sustainability and that self-empowerment. It's so beautiful. I love that this came up.
I know. And I love homesteading is such a big thing these days where everything is like DIY. Everything is grow your own, get your own animals. And I'm like, I want a cow now. I want a goat. Like I want to grow my own food everywhere and, and make my own products and my own face lotions. Well, we do. And, it's so simple. And yet we have complicated the heck out of everything. I mean, you buy a body lotion and you can't even read half of the ingredients. And really all you need is some oil. And I don't know how Cecilia makes the lotions, but some oil and essential oils. And she puts heat in it and makes a cream. And it's amazing. And it works beautifully. Right. And so anyways, back to the basics, you guys, we love it. Dr. Z, can I ask you how you got into essential oils? What's your story?
Yeah, a lot of it is the context of our conversation. What really took me over the edge, and I'll say there was an edge. My wife's been using oils since she's been a teenager. She had a chemical burn when she was 14.
Wow.
And she used some off the wall, whatever generic brand of facial cleaner when she was a girl. And she was on vacation in Minnesota and her family had well water at the time. So something with the well water, the chemicals that her grandparents used to clean the well water and the soap that she used from the bottom of her nose to really essentially near her upper neck, 2-3 layers of skin burned off.
Oh, wow.
And so her mother's friend is a Ojibwa Indian and practices Ojibwa medicine, or Cherokee, and she practices Ojibwa medicine. Oh, and she gave my wife her first essential oil kit and said, hey, you got to use this mixture of lavender and some coconut oil and jojoba. Nothing worked. Medicines didn't work, over-the-counter stuff. So that was my wife at 14. So when I met her, she's beautiful. She smelled great all the time. And that was her thing. And when we married and I saw her little routine, I was like, wow, that's a lot. And that's a lot of smell. And that's cool for you. But for me, I'm going to do my thing, which really, for all intents and purposes, had nothing to do with essential oils, because my own healing story had to do a lot with faith, with nutrition, mind, body. I wasn't really introduced to essential oils essentially until I met her. And so I dabbled. And I joke, but it's not like I'm going to go play beach volleyball with my guy friends smelling like ylang ylang. I mean, they'll take my guy card away, right? But funny enough, when I was at church a couple weeks ago, the worship pastor came up to me. I gave him a big hug after church. He goes, man, you smell good. I'm like, I get more compliments from dudes how I smell than women, because they recognize, wow, that's not that toxic chemical cologne than I used to know, right?
Totally.
So anyway, fast forward to when I was a medical researcher, and I was just at the point where I was in school and I was just making ends meet, and I was taking a lot of different jobs, writing medical papers, getting published, and doing white papers and all kinds of stuff. And I learned a lot. One of my clients at the time commissioned me to write a series of public health reports on essential oils. So now it was my job, and it was a fascinating experience to read hundreds of studies about the anti-inflammatory effects of essential oils and how essential oils could possibly even help a cancer patient, and diabetes, blood glucose, blood pressure, and all these different things. I was like, wow, this is wild.
Yeah.
And then I had my own proverbial coming to Jesus moment, because I was looking at my medicine cabinet and I realized, I don't have things for XYZ, right?
Yeah.
Like a pimple, athlete's foot, infection, some kind of histamine response. What do I got?
Yeah.
And at the point where I had nothing, because I was at that point very extreme where I didn't take any medicine, like period. And I still don't, because I don't use essential oils, but I just grinned and bared it. I just grinned and bared it. Like if I couldn't figure something out, I would just suffer through the symptoms, because I knew in my head that medicines were dangerous enough where I didn't want to use them.
Yeah.
But I also didn't have a solution to that. So that was my own, again, young 20s, kind of like having to figure this out kind of thing.
Yeah.
Well, that's when I started dabbling with essential oils, and one by one. And it really was when we had my first baby, Esther, and now she's 12. But when I saw my wife put heavily diluted orange and peppermint on my daughter when she had 104 temperature and saw that just almost immediately resolve it.
Amazing.
I was like, wow, this is no joke.
Yeah.
Right. And 104 is no joke. Most people will take the kid to the hospital at 104, which, by the way, I'll leave that up to parents, but we never take our children to the hospital for a fever, especially 104, because it's easily managed in our family. And so that was it. I was like, okay. And I started learning. And so here we are today. I mean, like, what got me to the point where I am doing what I'm doing now is another story. But I feel like everyone has their own, what got you interested in natural health? What got you interested in oils? What revelation did you have to experience? I was always bent. I was always ready. It was just a matter of being introduced in the right way.
I love it. That's really cool. And I love that your wife was your teacher. You know what I mean? Yeah. She really showed that to you. I feel like it's really hard for women to convince our husbands that these things are actually really legit. And there is research behind it, and they are very potent. So that's so cool, and shows the love and respect that you have for her. So thank you.
Really awesome.
Can you tell us a little bit more about your online presence, the resources how did you come about doing that? And how can people find your information? And what are you putting out there for people? Because you have a lot. There is so much information out there. You have courses, you have free information, you have paid subscriptions. Can you give us a little bit of a breakdown on all of that information for our listeners?
Yeah. And, it goes back to Sabrina. It goes back to my wife. I mean, I invested a ton of time and energy and money into being a chiropractor. And when I was in school, that was the dream of opening up a chiropractic health center where we would have this midwife, home birth group and homeschool group, being a healthy community, helping people with the nutrition. I had this holistic, my wife and I had this vision, abundant life, health and wellness center. Right. And so when I was in school, I realized that I had a gift, and I didn't recognize that I found really research-based writing. I didn't realize that would come so easy to me. Yeah. So I took up a couple of scholarships. I took up a couple of grants just to help literally make the ends meet, because I was on food stamps. Thank God we had that that government assistance at the time with a baby and then 2 on the way. Yeah. So, imagine I was in my young 30s at the time, just kind of struggling through life, just figuring out what it is. And I graduated through school, quite frankly, on a research track. And that's what I did. I went to Emory University. I studied public health at the master's level. I just fell in love with this. And this whole chiropractic thing just kind of fell by the wayside, quite frankly. I've never practiced chiropractic. I have a research clinic online. Wow. And so when I graduated, it was right before I graduated. I was like, Sabrina, what do you think we should do? And she's like, well, we got to put our stuff. I want to put my stuff online. I was like, well, I have no idea what that looks like. Yeah. And I remember I had $1,500. I was broke. And one of my clients, and I'm like, hey, I got a little bit of money because I just had a research job. And I went to one of my clients, I'm like, hey, do you have a recommendation of someone? And I found a wonderful woman that still works for me today.
That's awesome.
That built an entire website for me on the cheap because she appreciated us and she knew us and she knew of our work. And we had a mutual friend through my client. And it all started in 2014. And it was just essentially, it was at the time, it was my curriculum vitae. It was where I wanted to show people like, hey, I could write, here's some articles. And if you want to hire me, here's my stuff. And then my wife's like, well, can I put up some of my recipes? And she kind of took over. Yeah, she kind of took over.
I love it.
Again, I give my wife a lot of credit because my wife's name, my first book here, my wife's name isn't on the book. And that was an actual point of contention at first because a lot of my wife's recipes, especially the labor and delivery, it's like all of it's her.
Amazing.
But I'll tell you, the pushback I got from the publishers were, well, who's your wife?
Right.
I mean, your wife's not a doctor.
Yeah.
And your wife has no letters behind her name. Your wife isn't the face of the business. Yeah. And I didn't realize that I needed to shift something. And maybe I'm speaking to someone right now. Maybe I'm speaking to a guy out there or a woman or whoever it is. But there's an aspect of, to me, the real true healers and the experts out there are the moms who take care of the babies.
Thank you for saying that.
That is me.
Yes.
And a friend of mine, Joette Calabrese, and you guys got to get her on your podcast. She's a Spitfire Sicilian homeopath who said the reason we're in the state we are is because mom, and I got this on tape because in my interviews with my summits, the reason we're in the situation we're in, Joette has said, with our healthcare is because moms have outsourced health to the doctors.
Yes.
Moms need to take care of the babies. She has 4 babies. She never took them to the pediatrician once. I'm not saying that's what you do, but that's what now Joette in her 60s teaches women, moms around the world. Wow. And so I've just really been empowered in how disempowered I am as a man because for me, it's not my nature to do these things. I'm not the nurturer or the carer.
Yeah.
So all that to say is I realized, I remember there's so much here. I don't want to ramble on, but my first website was drericz.com because I couldn't afford Dr. Z. They were going to charge me $100,000, no joke. And they're still trying to sell it to me. I couldn't afford drz.com and Dr. Zielinski was taken. I'm like, well, let's do Dr. Eric Z. And so I remember 3 years ago when I told my wife or 2 years ago, I said, I'm changing the website name. She goes, no. She goes, this is our brand. This is our website. I go, no, you're not in it. I go, it has to be something where you can be included. So now that's why we changed it to Natural Living Family because a big part of what I do is because of my wife.
Yeah.
And that's why when I got my second book offer, I told my agent, kind of tongue in cheek, I'm like, don't even think about, in a nice way, he's a friend. I'm like, hey, don't even give me a contract without Sabrina's name on it this time. She has to be on it.
Nice.
And so that was my little battle and fight to recognize, it doesn't matter if you don't have letters behind your name. You don't have to be a published researcher to know what you're talking about. Let's empower the people that actually do this work practically. I'm in my research office here. My wife's the one who's really doing it and formulating a lot of the things. And I think, quite frankly, that's one of the reasons why our work has become so popular is because you got my wife's practical aspect of everything and she's doing all these things and she's making them just for our family. And I can prove a lot of it based off of the research. And I say, hey, here's some things you got to think of. What can we do with this little formulation? And hey, here's what the research says. So it's kind of this wonderful, I never thought it when I met her aspect that we have this family-based home business that it's a ministry that, I was a banker when I met her. She was in sales when I met her and we were young kids and we had no idea what we were doing, not realizing that here we would be. So long answer to a short question, but there's so much that I've learned over the years. And to honor mothers, to honor my wife, and to truly, because again, against her wishes, I did this. And now she appreciates it. She goes, no, I don't want that. I'm like, no, it's not about you getting glory. It's not about you. Let's give credit where credit's due, but let's also empower moms.
Yes.
And that's what I got to say.
Yes.
My most favorite thing about the multi-level marketing industry, and let's give them a thumbs up on that.
Yeah.
Yes.
They've empowered mothers.
Women.
And they use that word. They've empowered mothers and women to regain control of their health care.
Yes.
And that is something I have seen firsthand and I appreciate.
Yes.
Now it's just a matter of, okay, let's do it safely and effectively.
I have so many goosebumps because that's all we preach about all day, every day is you are entitled to knowledge about your body. Like educate yourself so that you can hold a really strong conversation with your doctors. And if your doctors are gaslighting you, you fire them and you find a doctor that will advocate for you.
Yep.
But we have, like us as women in the homes, we have to be the advocates for ourselves, for our children, for our babies, because no one is going to do it for us. Doctors are burnt out in the medical system. They don't have the mental or emotional bandwidth to do it for us. So we have to do that. We have to use tools like essential oils, food, herbs, supplements to do it for ourselves and to really know the nitty-gritty about the physiology that's happening in our bodies, right? Which is what the platform is about, the podcast is about, the Instagram is about, is, hey, let's break down these really complex, and I put in air quotes, these complex systems, and let's explain it to you so that you can understand it and grasp it and talk about it with your doctors, right? So thank you for like bringing your wife on board, you know, bringing her to the forefront and saying, hey, you know what? She isn't a doctor so-and-so and she's a freaking genius, because we don't need letters behind our names to step into our power. We don't need that.
And you say you're not sure who you're talking to. You are talking to so many people right now. Yeah. Because our audience is made up of these primarily women
stay-at-home moms,
been told their whole lives that they have nothing to offer because they don't have the education, they don't have the professional background, they don't have the experience, and their personal experience is telling them exactly what they need to do. They have this beautiful intuition that says, oh, I can do this. And then they have this external world that says, no, you can't. And we have been trying for so long to tell them, yes, you can. You have exactly what you need. Yeah. And hearing it from another person right now is probably just so empowering for them. And so thank you. Thank you so much for bringing that conversation topic up.
Exactly. So what is your website again? It's
naturallivingfamily.com.
Naturallivingfamily.com, you guys. So there's tons of resources there. You spoke about the healing power of essential oils. That was your first book. How many books do you have now? Just the 2, or are there 3?
We have 2, and a third is being published it'll be September of 2021 at this point. We're in the final stages of the manuscript editing process, which is fun. Yeah.
Amazing. So tell us about your second book.
Yeah, it's called The Essential Oils Diet. And that is essentially, it's our life. It's our lifestyle. It could have very well have been called, and it should have been called, I think, The Essential Oils Lifestyle. Yeah, but I lost the title wars to my publisher. By the way, for those people who are like, should I publish or should I self-publish? Listen, self-publishing gives you freedom.
Yes.
Publishing with a publisher, I love my publisher. Opens up a lot of cool doors, you know, gets your book in the Whole Foods or maybe Costco. But so anyway, it's The Essential Oils Lifestyle. It's how we live. We've been asked now, you know, we've been doing this professionally online in front of millions of people every year with our websites and social media, our documentaries and things. Millions of people. Millions and have asked us, not millions have asked us, but millions that followed, thousands literally have asked us, like, what do you do for this? How do you live for that? And what do you do when it comes to food and kids and travel, right? How do you do what you do when you go to Disney World, which we do? And so all these things happen, and we're like, you know what, let's just put our healthy lifestyle, which at the core is essential oils, because again, we can't do what we do without DIY, doing it ourselves, right? So at the core of what we do is essential oils. So it's really a healthy transformation book that my wife, who is a 2019 winner of Mrs. Georgia. So she transformed her body from normal, good-looking mom body to like ultimate super fit pageant body.
Amazing.
And people like want to know, how do you do that? And how do you do it naturally? Because she doesn't have stretch marks. She just had her 5th baby naturally, right? And we do all these things at home. And people are like, well, what does that look like for me? And so that's really what the book is. It's fun. It's a challenge. And I'll sum it up with this. If you give us 60 days, your life will be transformed. And why 60? Because there's something most people don't realize. Researchers have shown it takes up to 66 days to develop a habit.
Oh, wow.
And that's beyond proven. This whole 2-3 week thing, no, it can take a year for some. It could take 2 minutes for others. But on the whole and on an average, if you want to develop new lifestyle habits, you got to give yourself a solid 2 months. And that also
I really
makes a
bet.
lot of sense. You want to go through 2 cycles of life. Women understand the cycles of life, but men don't realize too that our skin regenerates every 28 days and our bodies are truly on a monthly cycle.
Yeah.
If you could go through 2 cycles of life, essentially, and if you do something consistently, you'll find your taste buds change. You'll find that your physiology reacts in a certain way repeatedly. You'll find that your thoughts are different. And there are certain things you need to do to get ready for that. So we talk about everything from emotional detoxification to how to incorporate essential oils like lime and lemon to help stimulate lipolysis, which is fat breakdown, which my wife will tell you has been a big part of her trimming up in some problem areas around the, you know, the underarms or thighs or the tummy, whatever it might be. Essential oils are great when it comes to giving you that competitive edge to taking your health to that next level.
I love it. And then your 3rd book is coming out next year, September, correct?
Yes.
Awesome.
The Essential Oils Apothecary. And essentially this is part 3. Like the first book, Healing Power of Essential Oils, is the beginning prepper book. It's like, look, this is everything you need to know to get started. I have a special section on women's health because like you've mentioned, most of your listeners, most of my followers are women. So I have a whole section on libido and menopause and autoimmunity and labor delivery, like all this stuff. That's the healing power of essential oils. But if you want to focus on your lifestyle, that's the essential oils diet.
Love it.
But what about people that are sick?
Yeah.
And I was really grappling about what to write. Like, you know, it's not like I can write 100 books on essential oils. Like there's a limit here, right? There's a limit of topics, and there's also a limit of research.
Yeah.
And so it hit me like, you know what the biggest bang for a buck right now is to help people is to focus on the major causes of death.
Yeah.
Is to focus on chronic disease. And we start with obesity, diabetes, cancer. We talk about Alzheimer's, fatty liver, bone and joint disorders. Most people don't realize how many people die on the adverse effects of osteoporosis and rheumatoid arthritis because of falls. Falls are a leading cause of death. How do you fall? Well, when you get older, because your bones and your joints, right? So all these little, you know, the elbow is connected to the hand bone kind of mentalities. Like, let's connect it all together.
Yes.
And so with the basic knowledge of oils that we give people, this is literal step-by-step protocols according to the research of what people need to consider under the guidance of a healthcare professional to how to prevent and treat chronic disease. And so I'm really excited about that one. And especially in the context of what we're dealing with in 2020, chronic disease has been an underpinning of a lot of stuff. People don't realize, you know, like what makes people more at risk of dying of a XYZ is because of, you know, obesity and diabetes. Heart disease keeps on coming up. And so what if we start to like shift that pandemic, which is a real pandemic around the world, and not saying essential oils are the cure-all, but I believe they should be a critical part of your natural living protocol.
Absolutely.
You know, so I got a saying that keeps on coming to me whenever I write a book, and, you know, there's this mentality that people can use an oil for that, right? And that's where on the flip end of the multi-level marketing industry, it's like, okay, guys, it's not that easy. You know, if someone's going to use essential oils but live their fast food or American lifestyle, it literally is like taking 1 step forward and 2 steps back.
Yes, agreed.
You have to live this holistic life. It's your food, it's your motion, your movement, your exercise. It's how you manage stress. It's your social engagements, right? And the lack of that people are struggling with. How many people are at the knife edge right now of depression and suicide? I mean, we personally have been affected by this, our friends and family, because of the lack of support that people are getting right now.
Mental illness.
And so
is insane.
if you're isolating yourself, or if you're forced in isolation for weeks or months on end, no orange oil is going to cure that.
Right. Exactly.
I mean, you know what I mean? It might sound crazy, but it's like we have the tools that we have available to us, but it's like building blocks on top of each other to build this building of health. And so I just want to reinforce that importance to, you know, we need to adopt this healthy lifestyle because that's the key. And the people that I know, and my mentor, Enoch, for example, who's 77 years old on no medication, can still run circles around me, bench press more than I can. We just went on a several mile hike. I mean, his lifestyle is one that empowers him really and supports his body to do things in a proper way.
Exactly.
So I want to leave that thought with people, because that's really, as I finished the manuscript a few weeks ago, we're now editing it. That's really the underpinnings.
Yes.
And I have this little disclaimer on every single chapter. My editor is like, well, do we need to have this in every chapter? I'm like, I think we do. It's like, hey, stop. Before you go and find out the 10 oils to use for Alzheimer's, before you look at the 15 oils to use for insomnia, please go to the appendix and look at the healthy living strategies we recommend.
I love it.
Because you might want to think about CBD.
Yes.
You might want to think about meditation or therapy. You might want to think about these things, because if you don't, you might be disappointed. Exactly. And I'll leave people with that. The most disenfranchised people I get from essential oils are the ones that are really toxic and unhealthy.
Yeah.
The folks that don't get the results that they're looking for, their toxic burden and overload, it's like nothing will work for them. These are the same people that need 5 doses of Vicodin to get a similar reaction as one person gets one. They've developed resistance. Their body is in such a state of toxicity, and I would even say numbness, that it's hard to even produce a physiological response.
Right, exactly.
I don't know any healthy person on the planet that if you give them peppermint, that they won't automatically like kind of jump up and perk up. It's a physiological fact that it will open up the airways. It'll give you a little mental boost. Totally. You might not like it. I don't know. But the thing is that I remember when I taught one of my first classes, and this chronically ill man, I mean, he was morbidly obese, and unfortunately I found out he later died shortly thereafter, morbidly obese. He smelled the peppermint, and I remember he's like, I don't feel anything. And I remember how cynical he was. Like, he goes, this stuff is hocus pocus.
Right.
And it dawned on me, I'm like, what would create a response on this person?
Right.
And then I started working with him. I'm like, you got to lose a little weight here, and let's start moving a little bit. And then it more and more developed. If you want your body to truly respond to things, your body has to be in a good place to do it. Otherwise, your body's going to be protecting against everything. Yeah. Right?
Exactly.
So anyway, all that to say is we cannot push enough and support enough, especially today in 2020 and now 2021, depending on when you listen to this or beyond, the critical nature of looking at your whole life.
Yes.
And then what you do is like, okay, let me show you how to use oils for this, and maybe show you how to use oils for that. And yes, oils can help you exercise better. They could help your libido. They could help your mood, or they could help your hunger cravings. They could help whatever. But imagine you look at this completely holistically.
Yeah. I'm going to say this again. All my listeners who have listened to all of our podcast episodes, I'm sorry if you're hearing this for the third time, but
I'm not.
Carlin Call, who is just Ingredients Online, she shared this analogy, and I love taking it further. She says, if you have a house or a house that's on fire, you're not just going to throw one hose on that. You're going to do 10, so one hose is essential oils, one hose is exercise, one hose is meditation, 3 hoses is nutrition, right? And so when we have our people that their complete house is just burning, and they think it's that one hose that's going to fix them, it's not, because are you also throwing gasoline on the back of that fire as well? You know what I mean? That's the fast food. That's the inflammatory oils. That's the sugar. That's all of that. And then you sniff a peppermint and you're like, that's not working. And it's like, well, you have one hose coming in on one side, and then you have like 10 gallons of gasoline coming on the back of the fire. Of course, you're not going to get a net positive in this situation. And so I really love, Dr. Z, that you're acknowledging that, essential oils are not just the only tool in your belt. You got to acknowledge and appreciate and keep utilizing all of the tools, all of the hoses to put out that fire. Because when that fire is just really small, it's just in like a bedroom or something, when you sniff that peppermint essential oil, it's going to go out because you only need one hose, right? But again, like big fire versus little fires, right? 10 hoses versus one hose. It takes energy and it takes time to get all of those fires to go out. And so, so thank you for sharing that.
And that's the key. You said it takes time.
It does take time.
It takes time. Like, it's a big difference between giving birth and having an epidural that's immediate and that's profound versus something like clary sage that my wife would use, or hot compresses with, certain herbs that are more gradual.
Right.
And that's the other thing is like, I don't get an immediate response. I don't like this stuff. And it's the same argument that doctors get when it comes to antibiotics. And that's why they invented opioids. I mean, quite frankly, it's like, okay, let's give you something that you can experience now. It's a matter of trusting the process and giving your body time to adapt.
Totally.
But, there's an element where you do what you do, knowing it's good for you, regardless of the outcome too.
Yes, exactly.
I mean, think about that. Do what you do, knowing it's good for you, regardless of the outcome.
Mm-hmm.
And that includes having your diffuser kicking in.
Yeah.
And, Norman Vincent Peale, Dr. Norman Vincent Peale, one of my wife's great motivational speakers back in the day, said, you throw your heart over the bar and your body will follow.
Mm-hmm.
Essentially, like, not that you fake it till you make it, but, if you're struggling with mood, like right now, so many people are, just by virtue of knowing that you're doing something good for yourself, put the happy mood, dopamine, serotonin boosting essential oils, which have been proven to the citrus, for example, the lime, the bergamot, the lemon, the neroli, the grapefruit, all of them can help. You put them in your diffuser and you just let that run. Just by doing that on a daily basis, on the flip end, instead of a neurotoxic wallflower or an aerosol that we know will stimulate a sympathetic or inflammatory response that can decrease your mood, just by doing that, like, you know what? I'm doing something good for myself.
Exactly.
And repeat to yourself in a sense, like, this is good for me. Like, I don't know about you, but I really don't like the flavor of some of the vegetables that I eat, but I eat them knowing that it's good for me.
Exactly.
Right?
Yes.
And ultimately, I feel good. It's like, okay, well, let's try to make it taste a little better. But when it comes to the oils, you do it. And again, mood's a perfect example, because eventually, I hope, and you will shortly see, wow, I do kind of feel a little bit better today.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, you feel what it's like to feel crummy. Or, you forget what it's like to feel crummy.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow, like I've been feeling good the last umpteen months. What day is it?
Right.
I didn't realize, like, right? And that's when people go to their doctor and they're like, well, I don't know if I need to be on this Xanax anymore. Can we talk about getting off of it? And that's the special place that I love seeing people go.
I love that.
Because now they're free. And I'm grateful for medicine to saving lives. I'm grateful for the transition. But to put someone on a lifelong sentence that they need to be on any sort of chemical altering pharmaceutical forever is a state of prison.
Totally.
It is. It's a state of slavery where it will end up hurting you. It will end up beating your body down. It will end up causing some sort of other condition. And I want to get people off that train.
Yeah.
Yes.
And again, if you're in a state right now, if you're at the point where your life's on a knife edge, like millions are around the world, do what you got to do to get through today.
Totally.
But know that this is temporary. And there are strategies that you can implement to wean yourself off, and especially under the guidance of a healthcare professional, to get freedom.
Yeah.
And I love this, because this brings us right back around to where we started, which is that this roller coaster of a year, 2020, has been an incredible opportunity for those who are willing to see the opportunity. It has forced us to reconsider everything that we do and slow down and basically rebuild our lives from the ground up if we choose to take that opportunity. And those of us who have seen amazing transformations in our family life, in our community life, in our health. Whereas those of us who see only the despair find ourselves falling deeper and deeper into that blackness, and our health kind of following in tow with that. So here we are now toward the end of 2020, maybe just in the middle of this chaos, who knows? But we still have this opportunity where we can say, okay, it is now time for me to reevaluate what I'm doing on a day-to-day basis. And are the things that I'm doing contributing toward my future well-being and happiness? Or are the things that I'm doing contributing to my future despair, depression, unhealth, and eventual demise? And personally, I'm very grateful for that opportunity. It's been a rough year for all of us, but I would not take it back for anything, because it has taken us to such an incredible place in every area of our lives.
Right. Exactly.
Here's an action item for people is, regardless of where someone is with their socio-political viewpoints, we don't know what's going to happen in the upcoming weeks, right? We have no idea. We could see, again, I don't want to date this too much, but I mean, we're in the midst of England just locking down again, El Paso, Texas doing curfews. New York just announced, hey, you have to prove that you're COVID negative to even travel to our state now.
Yeah.
Like all these little things. Here's my challenge that I've given myself. I believe God gave me that I wanted to give to the world. If I would have known in January that this was going to happen in March, what would I have done differently in January and February to prepare emotionally, mentally, spiritually, and obviously physically? You know, I would have probably got an extra box of paper towel and toilet paper, right?
A bidet.
But so what? Because the reality is we don't know. And again, we're literally right now on this call waiting on the election results that might wait weeks or months. We have no idea at this point too, right? Regardless of what happens to us, we're not a victim of our circumstances. What do you need to do today? Again, that's my question to you and me and everyone. What would you have done differently to prepare yourself so that when lockdowns and quarantine, all this craziness happened, you would have been in a better situation to thrive, not just survive by the skin of your teeth.
Right.
And for me, it was little things like, you know what? I really miss going to the gym. So I bought some extra workout equipment. Well, that was tough at first because all of workout equipment was gone, gone for months. You couldn't even buy a dumbbell anywhere, right? Now that the manufacturers, like we had this like little reset button here, people can still get stuff. Well, it was really tough for us having 4 kids. We have like homeschool 4 kids now, or virtual school. I had to buy an extra laptop. Well, we don't have enough devices for 4 kids, like little practical things like that. But what if we go back to what things like were in March, just on the very practical level? Does that mean that you maybe start to prep some of your own do-it-yourself hand soap? Or at least get the raw materials, or at least start to learn? Or is this that time when, like, you know what, I really wanted to do this, or I need to prep for this, or XYZ mentality? I just found that this has really helped put me in the driver's seat where I'm not now in coach at the, you know, in the back of coach, stuck between 2 people I don't want to be stuck with on an airplane, at the mercy of the pilot during turbulence. I don't know. I've been in those bad situations. It was tough. You're not that person. You can be in first class, right? Emotionally, mentally, spiritually, you can be taken care of in your own way. And so that's my challenge to people. And again, in the context of this, the healing power of essential oils, in the context of the things that we've done with our books, I would encourage people, I really would, like pick up a book on essential oils that teach you how to use them or make recipes, and start to prepare, start to get your medicine cabinet ready, start to experiment, start to do those little things. Like if it's canning, learn how to can some fruits and veggies. If it's like, you know what, I really wanted to do something because I found myself really at odds. Like I was just sitting down all day during March and April. Like maybe you got to get a little garden set up. I don't care where it is, where you live. You can garden any time of the year, inside, outside. I mean, really, there's a lot of cool things that you could do.
Hydroponics.
Maybe it's right. Just think about what you want your life to be. And here's to me, what were those things that you were really missing? I guess that's the inside scoop to who you really are. When we were stuck, and this was, again, our virtual coming to Jesus moment for a lot of us, like we had self-realization. What were you really aching for and missing when you literally couldn't leave your home and when you couldn't buy the things that you wanted? That's an indication of, you know, maybe some weaknesses, right? If you're really missing alcohol, like that's not a good sign. Like, man, I mean, seriously. Like, or what if you were missing something like, I really just missed those times when I was with my friends. Well, how do you create that environment where you can do those things? Maybe play bridge over Zoom, or, you know, get together with a secret cohort of people that won't rat on each other, because that's what we did.
Right.
We did. I'm kidding you. We created our own bubble. And nothing we did was illegal, but everything we did was safe and proper. And I still played beach volleyball every Sunday during the whole craziness. I still maintained our family get-togethers in the way that we were safe. And I still did my life because I didn't want my kids to live in a way that, you know, would affect them. And so whatever, again, just I want you guys to think about it. And some people are being spoken to right now, like, you know, I really wish I would have had this, or I wish I would have done that. Well, do that now. And live now like that. And prepare so that when something does happen, it's a minor inconvenience now. And I will tell you, the pandemic for us has been a minor inconvenience. It has not, other than for some of our friends and family. And I will say, like, very humbly, like a friend of mine took his life during this. It was 3 weeks ago. Like that was a major thing. I mean, that was, wow. Family members losing their jobs. This is big stuff. I mean, in my own little world, though, I personally haven't had that.
Yeah.
And that a minor inconvenience, meaning that, okay, I can't go to the store I want to go to, or this or that. I can't go to Disney World. Well, okay, no big deal.
Yeah.
But I could still create a fun atmosphere with my kids doing things that we can do.
Right.
Yes.
So it's been this really great, empowering experience for us, realizing that we were actually much better prepared than I thought we would be for something like this.
Yeah.
But also now I've been pouring myself into our online community. Like, hey, do this, think about that, prep this way. Because the reality is we're probably going to hit another major lockdown one way or another, right?
Absolutely.
And especially if you're in California, I mean, God bless you.
Yeah.
I can imagine.
Right.
But you could still thrive. So anyway, that's the encouragement I want to give people. And having, I've been really diving into like what am I using right now? Like cedar wood and spruce and Douglas fir and orange. I've been really diving into like the nature oils more. I call them nature oils, the forest oils. I've really been finding myself going outside and forest bathing more and bringing that into my home.
Love it.
And if you don't know what forest bathing is, look it up. It's fascinating, right? It's just being outside in nature and just inhaling the VOCs, the volatile organic compounds from the trees and plants. Like don't exercise, don't do anything, but just be.
Yes.
And you just feel better. Like you could bring that into your home a little bit. And that's what I'm doing right now. I got a little bit of outside nature in my office as I talk to you. Like I've really been drawn to that. You might be drawn because maybe you're super stressed. Maybe you're drawn to ylang ylang or lavender or Roman chamomile or maybe a geranium or clary sage that kind of chills you out, gets you in that parasympathetic state, right? Or maybe you're sluggish and you're just kind of depressed and you need that boost. Well, that's where peppermint or spearmint or some of the invigorating like citrus oils. Like I really do. I love orange and spearmint. That's a really cool blend. Simple. Yeah, anyone can just put a drop of each. I mean, all these little things, like these blends, yes, they do well in the diffuser, but what's your hand sanitizer like? What's your dish soap like? What do you put in your hand soap? Like you could buy store-bought hand soap, put a couple drops of essential oils in it, and now you just, boom, right? If you get non-toxic, store-bought, unscented soap, aromify it.
Yeah. Yes.
And you can create your own world.
Exactly.
It's not that hard. It just takes sometimes just picking yourself up by the bootstraps to do it. And I'll end with this because I'm kind of rambling on.
This is awesome.
To realize that you're worth it. The self-love aspect of this.
Yes.
You deserve it.
Yes.
And it's not selfish to take care of yourself. And I'm speaking to a lot of moms here, and I get it. You're not selfish to take 15, 20 minutes and have your aromatherapy bath.
Right.
Or go outside or have a little me time. The weight of the world is on people right now. And hopefully you have support. And if you don't, let's pray and let's ask, your neighbors or friends to figure out something where maybe you guys can swap. Hey, I just need a half an hour. Can you watch the kids? I'll swap with you. I mean, just things. We got to think like what happened to that mentality where grandma went next door to get a cup of sugar? We don't have that mentality anymore. Right? And what about the hug? Go next door, kick the kids out of the house, play. Mama needs time. I think there's a reason why grandma did that. Grandma needed some time alone, right? Again, I'm speaking to mothers here and fathers, but you deserve it. And again, I don't know of anything else but like essential oils that can put you in an immediate spa place. And I love the spa. My wife loves the spa.
Who doesn't? Yeah.
You can do it. Give each other a hand massage. That's another thing I've learned so much. I've talked about in my new book. Aromatherapy hand massage is so key. Give your spouse, your lover, your partner a hand massage, a foot rub. Give it to yourself. Like just think about the things that you could do and don't isolate yourself where you don't touch people. And I know this is stepping on toes for some people that are like social distance Nazis and stuff. You gotta put yourself in a situation where you feel comfortable to be around people where you you need that touch.
Right.
You need that touch. And looking at my baby right now, again, he's 2 weeks old. I think back to like, experiments, what they did with monkeys back in the day when they isolated monkeys. And this is how much it ruined them emotionally and basically made them crazed.
Yeah.
We as humans, right? We as people, Homo sapiens, we need touch.
Yeah,
we need that feel. We need the hug. We need the hands. We need just that. So find a happy place, find a peaceful place and just realize you're worth it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Just realize you're worth it.
I want to add something to that too, because there's a lot of political upheaval right now, and people are very uncertain and people are very scared. My challenge to people is we still have each other. And I think that's the relationship we need to repair right now, because we are all human beings trying to have a human experience, and we are not each other's enemy. And unfortunately, and I joke about this, and I shouldn't joke about it because it's very serious, but 2020 brought out the inner Karen in everyone, right? And everyone's attacking each other. And now I'm your enemy because I'm not doing things that you think are not safe, and so on and so forth. And I think we have this power to repair these relationships with ourselves, with our neighbors, with the person in the grocery store. We can do that through posts, be the change you want to see in the world. And so instead of retweeting negative things, tweet positive things, post love, emulate love, express love. People keep asking me about my political whatever, and I'm like, I don't want to talk about that. I want to talk about things that unify us. I want to talk about things that uplift you. It's not because I don't care about the political stuff. It's because I care about the people more, and so that's where I want my energy to go towards, things that are binding us, uniting us together. And we have a lot of power. I mean, the power that we put towards the fear mongering around COVID, we could turn that power around and put it towards repairing our relationship within our nation, within our country, within our world. We have the power to break down. We've seen that this year. We have the exact same power to turn that around in the opposite direction. So let's start putting momentum in that direction. Let's start loving on each other again, because, there's a saying Tristin has picked up in the past month, and he says, I see you. And so I want to say, I see you in your pain. I see you in your fear. I see you in your inability to feel comfortable right now. And I still love you regardless. And even though you might be lashing out at me, even though you might be saying hateful things about me, even though you might be thinking I am dangerous to you, I still love you anyways.
And I would say it's not regardless, it's not still, it's because of those things.
Because of those things.
I love you even more because I see myself in that, and I see how much compassion that brings up for me. And it's beautiful. It really is. 100% of our relationships that we think are difficult are actually just our own walls that we need to get past. And as soon as we put down those walls, those relationships transform.
And this is supposed to be an essential oil podcast. I'm so sorry.
Let's end on that though. Dr. Z, can you give us one really easy but awesome recipe that you use all the time around the house that two that people can take into their lives and implement today?
It's the holidays, there's people are going to be giving gifts, and what are some really great gifts that you think people can put together that not only shares love but creates unity and bonding again? And how can we heal each other through essential oils and essential oil gifts? What are your ideas?
Well, one thing you just said is just so powerful. The underlying fact, now I'll call it a fact, is it's almost impossible to do what you all are suggesting and what I'm suggesting if you don't feel good.
Yes.
It's really hard. I mean, if you are just at a point where you are just, again, you're living on the knife edge.
Yeah.
And you're in pain emotionally, mentally, physically, whatever. To be of service to others, and especially to yourself, to your family, I feel like, for me as a Christian, I feel being healthy is a spiritual act of worship.
Yeah.
I can't do what I'm called by God to do if this earth suit, this body is weighing me down.
Yeah, exactly.
And the better I feel, the more I'm able to pour out. The more I'm able to give, the more I'm able to be energized. I mean, I wouldn't be able to even have this kind of interview with you all if I were in a situation where I were sick, right? Emotionally, mentally, spiritually. I would barely be getting by, let alone giving.
Yeah.
So in the spirit of giving, in the spirit of holidays, for us in Christmas, before you could give the gift of health to others, which I would love for you to do, again, go on my website, naturallivingfamily.com, or pick up the Healing Power of Essential Oils. I mean, there's tons. You can make a simple hand sanitizer bottle, costs you $2, and put a pretty bow on it, put it in a bag with a handwritten card, and you just made someone's day. That's simple. But to get yourself in the position to even do that, though, to give the gift of health, you have to give yourself the gift of health too. Yep. And so I guess the thing is that, a lot of challenges in this conversation, but we need to take care of ourselves and do the things that we need to do. So we're in a better position. And moms, dads, caretakers, you're getting the brunt of it. First responders, you're getting the brunt of it right now. Do what you got to do. And I don't know what that looks like, but find what you're drawn to right now. And I hope that you have enough essential oils on hand, or you could at least let your fingers do the walk-in and try to find something. But if you're drawn to something, I want to encourage you to incorporate that into your daily life. Again, the citrus oils for mood boosting, I think, is a good place to start. For a lot of people. It's a really good place. Most people you can't go wrong with orange oil, for example. And orange oil is not cheap, and that's cheap, but it's cost effective. It's typically one of the best all around oils for your buck. And I would say, you know what, get some orange oil. And I think start with that. And if you can get your hands on some vanilla absolute or vanilla CO2, adding a little bit of orange and a little bit of vanilla. It's like the creamsicle, like people used to have. That smell is my wife's joyful recipe. And again, you put equal parts of that, like 5 drops each, in a hand sanitizer. That's all you need. And like per 1 ounce of liquid, like, you know, and hand sanitizers are simple. I mean, it's really, really simple for people. It's just, it's alcohol. It's alcohol. And you don't want to use water. You really don't. You don't want to use water in hand sanitizer. If you want to make it real, like legit hand sanitizer that kills stuff, it's alcohol and essential oils. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. But if you want to do your body care, you know, one thing I love, and I for me, I'm an on the go, I'm not a recipe kind of person. That's my wife. You know, she's like, follow the book. I'm Italian. I like to throw things together, right? That's my mom's side. My dad's side's Polish. But you know what? Having some jojoba oil, or maybe if you're not into the whole aromatherapy movement yet, if you're not in that scene, I'm pretty sure you got olive oil at your house. Most people do, or coconut oil. They're great carrier oils, right? And the more I learn about olive oil, the more I love it, by the way. It's like the ancient healing oil for so many things. But getting like the basic ratio is 12 drops of essential oil mixed with 1 ounce of a carrier. And that could be olive or coconut oil. So that's 12. That's a 2% dilution, which is generally recognized as safe for all of your healthcare needs. I mean, your body, your skin type. For babies, we cut that in half, and we'll use 6 drops. Again, 6 drops for 1 ounce. That will last you quite a while. But if you're on the go and if you need something, or if you want to prepare something, you know, getting like 1 or 2 ounces and using those ratios I just said, equal drops of orange, equal drops of vanilla if you can get your hands on it, or if you can't, equal drops of orange and equal drops of peppermint. That's a good place to start. And you know what? Try putting that on as a moisturizer after you get out of the shower. That's actually what we do with our kids. And the kids now at their age, my daughter's 12, and we have now a young one down to 4 and the baby, but we have our children, like they oil themselves up, and it's part of their daily routine. Like we get them out the door and drop them off at school, and they're like walking diffusers.
I love it.
And the thing I want to encourage you with, the practicality of this is if you want the biggest effect, I believe the best effect of using essential oils throughout the day, you apply them topically, because the oils penetrate into your skin, get into your bloodstream, you get the healthy effects of that, but you also get the inhalation benefit. Again, you're like a walking diffuser. So to give the gift of health of others, maybe try in the next month. Maybe make November your month where you find the recipe that works for you, whether it's a souffle, butter, kind of like creamy loveliness, or whether it's a personal inhaler where you actually buy something like this on Amazon and you have on the go inhalation benefit. Like, I don't know what works for you, what you like. But you know what? Find 1 or 2 recipes that you love, and then make a bunch of them for Christmas and holidays and give them away to people. Like, imagine that. And these are relatively cheap. You'll spend a couple bucks on some raw materials. You'll spend a couple hours on some love. You know, pour your heart into it, and you'll have a wonderful, wonderful holiday season of giving not only yourself the gift of health, but giving it to others.
And something so simple is like bath salts. You know, get a bunch of bath salts, put them in bags, put your favorite essential oil drops in there. That is so easy. And then like stick a heart in it or something, you know, and, you know, it can be so easy like that, you know, and so thoughtful and so therapeutic too. And then give yourself a bunch of that too and take a ton of baths, right? Self-love. So,
but when you're making it, think of it, it's kind of funny, but when when my wife does her DIY gifts for people, it's like the whole kitchen's like, whoa.
I love it.
It's like walking into a baker's kitchen with like flour floating everywhere.
You're giving yourself a treatment. It's perfect.
You do. I love it. Is it fun?
What's that?
Flip this thing on its head, everyone. Yeah. You and me and everyone, we have the power of flipping this thing on its head, regardless of the chaos around us. Yeah. We can live in our own center of peace and love and joy.
Yes. Totally.
And then you become infectious in a good way to everyone around you. And people are going to want to be with you. They're going to want to call you. Like, I can't tell you how many people call me on the phone just to hear me, just because I'm a grounding place for them. You got this. We can do this.
We can do this.
Oh, man. I hope everyone has loved this as much as I have.
I know, right?
Such a great, loving experience. Thank you, Dr. Z.
Thank you, Dr. Z.
Thanks for having me. It's been fun.
You've been fantastic.
So once again, if you want to learn more about what Dr. Z does, all of his awesome ideas, and of course his wife's awesome ideas, then naturallivingfamily.com. Did I get that right? Yes.
Yes, sir.
And the 2 books that are out right now, both awesome. If you're brand new to essential oils, then the first book is probably the one you want. It's called, remind me again.
The Healing Power of Essential Oils.
Healing Power of Essential Oils. If you're looking for more of that lifestyle transformation in 66 days, then the second book, The Essential Oil Diet, is going to be the one you want to get, or just get both of them. That's kind of my plan now.
I know, right? Well, thank you again for your time. We really appreciate you and your amazing energy that you have shared with us and listeners. And happy holidays, because that's coming up now. And whenever you guys listen to this episode, probably not holiday time, but happy holidays to you anyways. So until next time, you guys, take care.
All right. Talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye.